up on stage when I'm on stage, but I'm actually here with our changemakers here. Hi, guys. Hi, guys. So, so I'm going to come and sit over here next to Therese, and we're going to answer a particular question which I've just seen, because we've just done a whole Q&A, and I deliberately choose changemakers who are successful in their own right, they've had their own ups and downs, as we all have, who are Melbourne-based, Australian-based, and we have had a conversation largely around videos. That's why we thought, let's do this video. And the question I want to ask is around the link between using video as a medium. That means you've got to be very articulate, right? I mean, Stephen was talking about webinars over 45 minutes, but if you're going to do one within 10 minutes or 5 minutes, how do you become really articulate? And secondly, how does that link with your personal brand as to who you are consistently, and how does that link with your story, right? It's like, because I think at the end of the day, it really is all about storytelling. So I've got a question, which is for anyone who's watching this video, or anyone who's in the audience right now, if they're there thinking, I want everything I do to be consistent in some way, to get a message of some sort across, but how do I actually get clear on my story, and how do I get clear on what my personal brand is, which makes me unique? I want to start with Therese. I'll ask it a slightly different way with each. You know, you found that you just told the story about your daughter Miranda and yourself, and how some of the things that you believed was important in the story didn't fit her brand necessarily, as like a glamour model, as someone who was focusing on certain things which didn't include toothpaste and other things. But you then said, but that's who I am, which meant you had to build your own personal brand separate from the personal brand that she had, right?
Yes.
So what would you say for anyone who's here is the best way for them to do that? What did you go through to build that personal brand, which is now allowed Divine to be its own product brand?
Yep, so in answer to your question, I just chose to be really real and authentic in who I was as such, and I'm dedicated to, and you've heard me say it, the health of everyone, and I don't want people to have the aha moment that I had. And as a result of that, when Miranda said she only wanted to do skincare, I couldn't just stop, knowing that the chemicals are in our deodorant, in our toothpaste that you're putting in your mouth, that are in your hair care, in our baby products, for goodness sakes, chemicals that are untested. I couldn't stop at that. So the whole transition was just being real, getting back to what really mattered to me, that I could hopefully, through our family, impact the world in a better way, to make a difference and to change health.
So we had that as part of the conversation earlier, where you were sharing your story of what happened to you, where you had cancer, where you shared that, tumors in the spleen, where you recovered from that?
Yeah, totally.
Totally recovered?
I'm the healthiest I've ever been in my life. I could run a marathon, I feel like I'm 20, and that's because I choose health every day.
Okay, so Divine was a reaction almost to that, to say, let's actually have healthy products. Sue, you then mentioned something, which was how much, even though you know of Therese, that story you'd never heard of before, how that's then actually kind of spurred in you, like, hey, bring that even more into the story so that it's visible to everyone, right?
Yes, absolutely, yes. So, I mean, to me, the resonance you have in the local room is a result of revealing your truth. It's cozy now on the couch.
Yeah, it's good, right? I've got Gideon next to me here as well.
So yeah, Therese was willing to be open and honest and reveal something that was very personal to her, and I think that's what people love. And so, yeah, I think you have an opportunity to rewrite or put an additional message out there into the media about who you are and what the message is. And as long as you're consistent with that, as long as we're all consistent with the same message over and over again, it'll eventually cut through. And I would also say, own it. Own whatever you are, whoever you are, own it. Don't be thinking, oh, I might not be qualified, or I don't have the piece of paper that says I can be a nutritionist or whatever. I often get people say that to me, or how I'm a bit scared if someone finds out that I don't have enough years of experience or something along those lines. And I just say, just own it. Just be 100% you, because no one, if you're running in fear of someone finding something out about you, then that's the worst place to be. So be honest and just say, look, while I may not have the fancy piece of paper, I've seen 100 people in the last week and they all have this, this and this, and I can tell you those people respond to this, this and this. So just own.
Well, a lot of people, they edit their story because they worry that people will look at them bad if they knew all the bad stuff. So as a result, they try and edit and create like, here's a good bits of who I am.
Yes.
What you heard with Therese, and I think we've all had dark moments, tough moments. How important do you think it is that our toughest moments almost should be a part of our story?
I think there's immense power in vulnerability. There is immense power in vulnerability, and that's been part of my journey in the last 5 or 6 years, is getting over, and I think it probably comes from me being a journalist, where it is meant to be on the surface and people aren't meant to know what goes on behind the scenes. But I've realised that when you are willing to be honest and completely honest, it gives a space for other people to do the same, and then they grow as a result. So yeah, we've all had ups and downs, and I would say, you know, just be willing to be vulnerable, and sharing, whenever I share a mistake I've made or a fear I've had or something, it's those things that people come up to me and go, oh, I'm so glad you told me that, because now I feel so much better. You know, you are just like me, or whatever that is, and there's a lot of power in that.
So it's all about empathy and connecting with that point, with the people that you're working with, whatever the movement, we're talking about movement, we'll come back to that in a moment, and path. I'm going to come over to Gideon. Gideon's here. Gideon, I give Gideon a lot of credit for the way we've built our YouTube channel. If you were having someone getting courageous enough to say, right, I'm ready to get my story out there, or I'm ready to get my message out there in videos, what would be the top 2 or 3 tips you'd give someone to create the right kind of authentic videos, not polished, but the kind of ones that you know people get most attracted to?
But I think that there's 2 main things, I guess. The first one is to be authentic, like Therese was saying, but then the question is, how on earth do you be authentic? And the answer would be, you just be yourself, right? But then the question is, how do you just be yourself? And that's one of the hardest things, I think, that we have as human beings, is to be ourselves, because we've been so conditioned to be something else that everyone else thinks we should be, or that all the expectations around us. So we have this problem. We have to be authentic on video, which means we have to be ourselves, but we don't know how. So how do you be yourself? So I think the answer to that for me has certainly been to follow advice from Roger, but also someone like Joseph Campbell from The Hero's Journey. He talks about following your bliss, which is all about following those things that truly interest you, being on your path and being in flow. When you follow your bliss, when you're in flow, by definition, you become yourself. And naturally, you just act like yourself. And I think that's how you become authentic, by following your bliss. So that's the first thing. That's how you do it. That's all cool, though, being yourself. But then there's another thing, this massive thing in the way, which is fear. Fear of being on camera. And I'm not sure about you guys, but even myself here, I was kind of fine sitting here on stage, talking in front of, I don't know, 300 people, and then Roger turns the camera on, and then all of a sudden something changes. So what happens when that little red dot starts flickering is this fear response kick.
You do realize we've actually had a 360 camera right in the center there, watching everyone this whole time as well.
Right, yeah. But as soon as you realize you're going to be on camera, then this fear response kicks in. So how do you deal with that? Well, there's a couple of things you can do. First of all, when we see ourselves on video, we have this assumption that millions of people are going to see us. Well, it could possibly happen, but in general it doesn't. But there's this other thing that also happens, is that when we see ourselves on video, it's not actually the picture that's inside of our heads of how we see ourselves. And do you know the reason for that? So, when do you see yourself the most often? Roger?
Mirror?
Mirror, right? Yeah, you see yourself in the mirror most often. And so, by definition, that's actually a mirror image of you. It's not actually the real image of you, right? And most of our faces, unless you're a supermodel, are not symmetric. So when you flick it, it looks different. You should try this, actually, if you haven't yet. Take a picture of yourself and flick it around, and you sort of look a bit funny to yourself. You can even divide your face up into 2 halves, and then copy those halves, and then put the 2 left-hand halves together and the 2 right-hand halves together, and you'll have 2 different faces of yourself. And that'll give you a really true appreciation of...
Have you done this, Gideon?
I have.
You should create a little software thing that does this.
Yeah, I have. It's actually... some people think it's one version is your feminine self, and the other one is your masculine self. And it's quite uncanny when you do that. But it shows you how different the pictures are in our minds of what you actually look like. So when you see yourself on camera, it's actually different to how you normally see yourself. So when you see yourself on camera, your subconscious mind freaks out. You go, hey, hang on, that's not what I look like. I know my ear is not kind of like positioned that way, or my eyebrow there's something off there, but you don't know quite what it is. And it's because the image in the video is a flipped image compared to what's inside your head. And the same with the audio. The way you sound to yourself on the camera sounds out of whack. But yet when you ask your friend to go, no, you sound like that. But to yourself it sounds weird, because the sound, when it travels from our mouth to our ears, it actually goes through our heads and through our blood and bone and everything to get to our eardrums, and also through the air. But when everyone else hears you, it just goes through the air. So the way to fix that is to basically just record yourself and then watch yourself and listen to yourself over and over and reset your subconscious mind so that you can actually accept yourself. And that can do a lot for breaking down that fear of being on camera. Because once you accept yourself for what you sound like and look like on camera, those fear barriers start going down, and you can get the courage to get yourself up onto that video and become the next Facebook and YouTube superstar.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, Gideon. Let's finish off with Stephen and Corinne here. Which of you would like to share? You got what? I'm going to sit next to Sue here. My final question is, like, again, story-wise, and I'd love for you to share a little bit more about movement, what you see as being the easiest way to get connected into the right movement when you know you've got a story and you know it connects in with others that have a similar movement as well. And I'd love to hear just from your side, how do you make that then uniquely different so that you stand out, you'll play in the team as opposed to trying to be the same as everyone else within that movement as well. Would you like to share first of all, Corinne, on the whole movement?
Sure. I mean, when I say be part of the movement, I don't want people to start being part of the movement because that's going to make them popular. You really have to be passionate about something, and you know you're passionate when something really moves you, either makes you really happy when good news about it is shared, or really, really upset. So for me, for example, fostering, I used to drive all the way to Brisbane to train my sales team, and I would see these billboards about foster care, and it would make me really, really upset that there was a shortage in foster families, and I realized, wow, why is this making me really angry? Maybe I should do something about it. So it's really important to not just be part of any movement, but be part of a movement that really, really moves you, or really makes you angry with something happening around it. So it's not just about being part of any movement just for PR sake.
Yeah.
I want to make this really, really clear. And everyone has something that makes them really, really angry. Could be animal cruelty, could be anything. And something that makes them really, really happy. And that's your cue. And when that happens, you know, well, I can contribute, I can be part of that movement and change something about it.
I really like, for any of you who've watched Elon Musk as he launched the Tesla 3, the first half an hour before he even brought out the car was all talking about how passionate he was about the environment and about how much fossil fuels were impacting the environment. And then it was after really bringing out the big why, he then launched the car after that. And the car was just the response to that as opposed to the car being the main thing. And we heard from Therese earlier about how passionate she is about her movement. What would you say, Stephen, when someone has identified that wave, because the movement's really a human wave, it's a human wave of people that are all heading in the right direction, when you've identified that movement, and then you still want to be able to stand out, not in a way that you're competing with everyone in that movement, but that you become like the #1 chosen collaborator to the people around you. What's one way that you've seen the people you've worked with do that really well?
I think there's a guy that comes to mind recently, Dylan. He was a Forex trader originally, but he started making a lot of money for himself, but then he went to, I think it was Africa or India or somewhere, and he saw a lot of poverty, and he basically gave all his wealth away, and then went back to the UK, and he was broke, and he wanted to keep helping, but he realised that, hey, I don't have any more money to give. So he started building a business, but he built it in the beginning and always as giving a percentage of the profits. This is very common. We see like a lot of people say, oh, 10% of this goes to whatever, but every single different cause that he helps, he attaches that and makes that his mission, because money doesn't motivate him. He's actually driven by helping people. And when he came to Australia recently, because he was actually one of the random people we picked out of the crowd to build a business for him on stage, and we launched him, and he made a bunch of money. And what was amazing was people came up to him at the end, because during the webinar he shared his story and the reason why he was doing it, and we created this Forex product for him that he sold, and he was going to make it after. People came up, and he said this at our event in the Gold Coast. He goes, people came up to me and he goes, we're not even interested in Forex. We bought your product because we love what you're doing and we want to be part of what you're doing. And, we aren't not interested in Forex at all. He goes, but we more bought for you and we want to be part of what you're doing. And if we need to learn Forex so we can help people more as a strategy, then that's great. And, when he was telling this story, I mean, the audience was in tears, at my event. And it just really illustrated the importance, for many of us. For me, money is not my number one motivation. It's helping people to become financially free, to get out of the rat race so they don't struggle, and that's my goal. And Karina a year ago said, "What do you want to achieve now?" I said, "I don't know. I just want to do nothing because I don't have another mission. I don't have I've helped people. I've done it." And really, she realised that I need a new cause. I need something, and that's why we started looking at fostering. And in fact, they're coming out this Thursday to look at our place to make sure it's suitable. I'm putting all my death metal pictures away, and for me that's very motivating. And we'll look for ways that we can promote more of that through our businesses, through our networks. Again, the intention has to be right. It's not we're doing it for publicity, but I think it's a byproduct of doing it. So I think karma comes around, and when you're doing the right thing, when you're helping, then it can benefit your business as well as a byproduct of that. So
very cool. All right. Well, I just want to say thank you to each of you for sharing that. We're going to finish this video, then we're going to wrap it up in here. But could we please give them a big round of applause for their sharing? Thank you.